Hello, YouTube family. How you doing? This is Ronique West, aka the Legacy Architect. So today we're going to talk about home ownership. And this video actually came to my mind maybe like 2 weeks ago when I was just dealing with some stuff in my home. And I wanted to be sure that, I probably should share some of these things. I know a lot of people are in debate mode about should I buy a home? Should I get a home or whatever? It's just a lot of conversation happening around that, especially with the market that's happening today. I am in the US right now, and all the things that are happening. So I want to have a real conversation with you about home ownership. This video is going to be a little bit longer than any of my other videos. I try to keep my videos to 15 minutes, but I think this topic is so important. I don't want to rush this video. So I'm actually doing this on a whole different platform from my desktop so that we get to have this conversation today. So if you want to know a little bit about me, I'm all about philanthropy, economic development, business development, those type of things, and so forth for our community. But my bio is like in my settings page. You can read a little bit about that and who you're learning from today. So, a little bit about home ownership for me. So, I actually had built a home back before the housing crash happened in 2008. Can't remember what year I actually built the house, but my objective at that time was to build a house and was thinking about selling it for when my daughter went to college so I could have a way to pay for her college, based off of my personal situation. So that was my objective then. I ended up not getting that home. Now, we could say divine intervention got in the way or whatever. I didn't like the way, honestly, the house sat on the lot. I actually built a home for a bigger family. It's always been most of the part me and my daughter, or me, my daughter, and my mate. So I haven't had like a huge family for the most part. So it's usually just 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. Okay. But at that point, I had built a 4-bedroom home with a full basement. I mean, I went through all the process of picking out the tile, picking out the everything you could think of, the cabinets, the style of the home, and this, that, and other. And this was when they were doing I think there were Fannie Mae loans where you actually ended up with 2 mortgages and so forth. And so it was several of us, the company I worked with at the time, were actually all getting our homes at the same time. I just chose not to go that route based off of my personal situation. My personal situation at the time was normally, I have been married before, but I'm now divorced. Rest in peace to my mate, my then husband. But at that time, I was still single, unsure if I wanted to be married. Not to say people wouldn't ask to marry me, but I just had not really seen a husband for me yet. Okay. So I always based it off of my current situation. Not to say that that couldn't be the case where I would have a partner and I would have 2 incomes. It wouldn't be all on me and so forth. So that time, I did not decide to buy that house. I actually got my earnest money back, and back out of that deal is what I ended up doing, which, later on, the housing market crash, which would have been the time my daughter would have went to college. So thank God that I did not go to that that route. Fast forward to where I live at now. I actually ended up purchasing a house maybe I guess 6 or 7 years ago. So I've been a homeowner. Well, it's probably six years ago. I've been a homeowner for 6 years. Okay. Excuse me. Same situation. I am single. I'm human, so I apologize for that. I am single for the most part right now. And so I really based buying my home off of that. I was not married at the time. I was in a relationship that was a kind of considered long term, I guess, for these days. Long term to me is like 5 years plus. Long term nowadays is like a year or two. But I was not counting on that person, or I was to help support the whole home ownership thing. But the goal was for that person to actually buy their own house, and then we would eventually buy a house together if we stayed together. That was the objective at that time. That was the strategy. So just so you kind of know, so it's been 6 years in, and for the most part, I have been dealing with home ownership by myself. So let's have this real conversation, guys. First off, renting versus buying. You have to decide what is the right thing for you. Again, the reason why I went through that story the first 5 minutes, because you could tell I was assessing my situation, my personal situation, not my person next to me, not the person around me, not a friend, not a possibility, just the reality of where I'm at, what I have to handle, what are my responsibilities. Do I have a support system or not? Those are the type of things you got to look at. So renting gives you flexibility, it gives you less upfront costs and fewer responsibilities. So if you're not a responsible person, you're like when the sink breaks, when the a hole get in the wall because the maybe the roof is leaking. You want to be able to call somebody and not deal with it. Renting may be an option, or getting a condo may be an option. Like a lot of women do choose to do condos because then the maintenance included in the condo fee, and you don't have to worry about that, right? Buying. Buying is a good option when it's ownership. Ownership is a strategy for us, but we got to make sure that when we do ownership, that we are planning legacy wise. That means putting it in trust, in a will, those type of things. What happens when you die? What happens if something happens to you? All those things you need to be covering when you're doing that ownership. Equity building, it has tax benefits, but with risk. Okay. So you really have to assess your situation and be honest, with what that may be for you. Is now time for you to own? Is something to free yourself for a long-term commitment? What made me finally decide to buy? I realized at that point in time that I was not probably going to move in the next 5 years, and I hadn't. And so that's what made me finally decide to buy. Now, I have been in the area I'm in for over 15 years, but back then when I was starting, I was getting my footing, and I really thought I was going to leave this area. When I realized at one point that, oh, this year, the next year, I just seen my income like skyrocket a little bit. And I was just like, I need to buy something, you know, substantial, because I know I'm going to have a good year income wise. And that's what I focused on. And so let me go ahead and purchase a home. And then I ended up deciding knew that I wouldn't probably move for 5 years. Not to say I'm not a person that don't think I won't move, but right now I knew that I would be kind of, stable for a little bit. So that's something I could invest in while I was stable. So that's the first thing. Really sit down, write that out, figure out which one you think is best for you, and go from there. Know your finances and your support system. Be honest with yourself. Do you have an emergency fund? What is your credit score? What is your job, income, and stability in today's market, right? A lot of people, like, there is no guaranteed job today. It's just not. We are in a time where the old is dying out, the new is coming in. So we're all kind of shifting. We're all figuring out. I read a lot about artificial intelligence, about the end of jobs, of how things are changing, really the next transition we're going through. So really take that into account and really make decisions based off of that. Do you have the support system? Even with me, I don't think you should buy too much house. I just, you're usually going to get approved 3 times your income. I would never, in my opinion, put myself in that situation. Just because then you have to always make that income. And, things happen, life happens, people get sick, accidents happen. You don't never know. I'm not saying any of those things are going to happen, but you want to be prepared for what may change in your life, right? And what does it mean? So if you get approved for 400,000, which I think possibly could have been the amount I got approved for, there was no way I was buying a house for 400K. I just was not like that. Mortgage, absolutely not. I don't even want that. I'm a type of person where I feel like if I want to shift a job, want to move, etc., I want to make sure that what I can pretty much hustle up on, I can afford everything that I have under me. So that's kind of me. But the cost in the US is just get ridiculous. So it's just difficult to even do that in the US today, unfortunately. But I would never buy at that top amount that I'm approved for. I would actually strategize to buy at a reasonable amount if you can, and then buy a second property once you're ready, okay, and leverage that property, right? So that would be my suggestion. If you're definitely thinking about buying, I would definitely say do not become house poor. People say if you're paying more than 30% of your income for your basics, that means they consider you house poor at that point. Now things happen. You may have bought a house where at a time you were making a certain income level, your income changed for whatever reason. Now you're maybe upside down and so forth. Those things happen. So don't forget that life is always happening, but choose based off of your lifestyle, not off of somebody else's statuses or lifestyle, or off of them being married, having two incomes, whatever it may be. Buy so that you're at peace in your house. So your house is still your tranquil place, okay? Where you're not coming home and you're stressed because you're like, how can I pay for this mortgage? So you don't want that, because your house should be your peace. So really stay there. And then, I would say leverage that other for a second home, because what happens if your income changes or you have issues with renters and so forth, you can then sell that house, right? And get rid of that asset and keep your current asset. So that kind of gives you one place for peace, one place you can leverage and play with for wealth. That would be my suggestion there. So paying off your home early. Now, this is I'm gonna talk about some things I wish somebody would have talked me through. Now, no, that's to my realtor. My realtor is the truth. Okay. I picked this realtor because I knew I was a first-time home buyer, officially family, in the US. And I wanted to know the ins and outs of everything. And I actually took my time purchasing my house. That's another thing. I would not rush into this, guys. I took about 6 months to 8 months before I even settled on a house. And I was determined to stay in a certain price range and find what I was looking for me to be comfortable. And then maybe having family members or so forth staying with me and so forth, but to make sure I had my own space in my home, but nothing too big, because honey, I ain't trying to clean a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not a person that has a lot of dinner parties. I'm not allowing people to come in and out my house. I believe in keeping my energy clear and not really allowing folks, to be in my sacred spaces. So I'm just not that person. Now, if you're a person that there's a lot of housewarming or parties at your house, letting a lot of people in and out your house, assess your situation. For me, that's not the case. So that's just one thing I would say. But one thing that I'm hearing about now, which I wish I would have learned about, was revolving line of credit and using that to pay down your principal faster. And that being a strategy where you can pay off your house in 7 years. And that is something that you can search on YouTube and find all these videos that are now popping up regarding this. And I wish I understood that strategy when I went to closing. So if you're in the process of thinking about buying a home and so forth, look that up, because at the point of closing, right, your credit is great. You can actually get more capital at that point, be able to leverage some things, get the revolving line of credit, and then work that strategy to pay off your house. Because once you get into your house, things happen, etc. Life happens. There's no telling where your credit may be, what you may be going through, or so forth. So really look into the strategies to get your house paid off before you go to closing, and get the strategy in place right away while you're at that level. So that was one suggestion. Equity builds faster, less long-term interest. So that's another thing that you want to think about, especially in this market. Our houses are overvalued right now. So a lot of us have equity in our homes right now. And some people are thinking about leveraging their equity to, do some things right now, which is totally a possibility. But again, assess your situation, see if there's an option for you, if that's something you want to do. It does require discipline. Like the cons of owning a home, you got to have discipline. You need to have cash flow. When it comes to just repairs and so forth, which we'll talk about a little bit more here, just keep that in mind. Educate yourself and work with someone you trust. So the realtor, like I said, I kind of assessed my situation, and I was just thinking, like, what do I want to do next to work on strategy and so forth. I don't have anybody in my family that really taught me about any of this and so forth. So I've been self-learning, self-taught, asking questions, learning from others outside of my family, so I can really teach my daughter and my grandbaby, these type of things that I had to learn as I got older instead of as a youth. So this is just what I'm just sharing with you. But really educate yourself and find a realtor that is more concerned about you being an educated homeowner than just making a sale. So I would personally say you can tell a realtor that is really focused on you understanding the ins and outs of home ownership is going to walk you through every single process, explain everything to you, take their time with you, and not just push you into buying a house and tell you yes, you can afford it, and put you. And I think one sign that realtor does not care is that they're telling you to buy the house that you're approved for. That would be a telltale sign. Get you another realtor. That would be my advice, because that realtor is just looking to make money. Okay. Not knocking the hustle, not knocking it at all. But we got a lot of folks who are very much regretting buying their homes right now. It's because they were not educated through the process properly. So we don't want to see you in that situation. So the other thing that you got to think about if you decide to buy a home, insurance premiums. Hey, we have an issue with insurance right now in this nation. Most of everybody I know that has a home, their insurance has went up for no reason. Not because you had a problem in your home, not because you had an accident or anything. The insurance costs in America is just rising. Property taxes, another thing. So because the value of your home has went up, guess what else goes up? Your property taxes. So even though you haven't made an addition, you haven't added anything to your house, doesn't matter, because the market is inflated right now. You're going to pay more in property taxes because now the value of your house is that. And that's another thing that makes your insurance rises, because the cost of goods and wood, or the things they use to build a house, has went up. Your insurance on your home goes up because now they say the value to replace your home is higher. So when before your house might have been at 100 some thousand to replace, now it's 200 some thousand to replace. So guess what? That makes your property go up, property taxes go up, and your insurance taxes go up. Now you can look into things like homestead exemptions, those type of things to help with that if that's available in your area, to help to where you don't have to worry about that per year. Again, that's a strategy. Usually it's an open period where you can apply for that each year. If you feel like, okay, this year I really need to apply for that, then you can do it. But I think once you apply, you can't take it back. So just keep looking at those type of things for your particular situation. Now, new construction buyers. I was in a process where I was looking at, do I want to build a home again, or do I want a home that is already built? So for me, I chose to do a home that was already in existence. Now, reasons why I did that was because I talked to people all the time with all income levels in all types of situations. So for me, all I kept hearing, the resounding thing is that everybody said they bought a newer home, they ended up with issues like within that first 5 to 6 years, 7-year period, with foundation, with house leaning, or just crazy things. And I was just like, okay, if I find a house that is 50 years old or older, we know that foundation is good. We can change the inside of that house. We know the bones of the house is good. So I can work with that. So for me, being a first time home buyer, I was like, I don't want to deal with none of that. Let me get a house that I know is tried and true. Okay. So that was my option. Now, you may not find nothing you like and you just may want a newer home. That is totally fine. But one thing that you hope your realtor is telling you about, that they may not be saying, but they need to start saying this to you, is that normally your payment is going to go higher after that first and second year, because what your value of what your house was when you first built it and so forth will change once it's assessed. Okay. So a lot of people are finding that now they have a $500-$600 amount of payment added to their home because they didn't understand that that was going to actually change. But again, that's why I say that realtor, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, is so critical. And even just having a person that is a good friend that's been through this process, that has sold a home, talk to them. I asked my realtor and my friend about the home buying process. Like, I asked every question you could imagine. I was like, what do you think I need to know that I don't know? Okay. So that is what I did. And it's still things that I was unaware of that I'm learning through this home buying process, even with me asking all these questions. So make sure you get a good team around you to help you through that home buying process. Home warranty emergency repair fund. So I'm an advocate of home warranties. I'm a big person that I don't like to spend money on basics. Okay. Basics to me is your housing, clothes, car, food. Well, food ain't basic. Okay. I'm spending some money on some food. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna spend some money on some food. But basics, I just don't feel like should cost a lot. Okay. Unless I just really want them to cost a lot. But to be forced to pay a lot on basics, it just does not logically make sense to me. Okay. I'm trying to live life. I like to travel. I like to do what I want to do when I want to. I ain't trying to impress nobody. Okay. So me spending a lot of money on basics don't make sense to me. That's just who I am. Okay. I ain't saying you gotta be like me and so forth. Some people found their value in material items. I've never been that person. I'm like, nah, my value is in am I happy? Do I have joy? Can I go do what I want to do when I want to do it? Can I get up, rest, sleep in if I want to? That is where my happiness comes from. It does not come from the material stuff. So for me, the basics need to be basic. Cost of living don't need to be taking up all my money and my income because it's just basic. Okay. um, that's how I look at it. So I am a more of a person that just navigates through capitalism and can teach you how to navigate through what's leaving and what's coming in, and then keep it real with you. Okay. But for each his own. I don't judge either. So, but for me, that's just me. That keeps me okay and dealing with navigating through the things that come up normally in life. So, get a home warranty would be my suggestion. Find out what your home warranty does not cover. That helps you to not have to have a lot for emergency for your house, right? Everybody talks about emergency funds all the time and so forth. You need to keep some for your car, but when you become a homeowner, you keep some stuff for your house, okay? Because the home warranty is usually going to come with a out-of-pocket fee if you need to use somebody that's out of network, kind of like your insurance, your health insurance. And then they will always have a call fee, which is usually like $75 to $125, okay? And it comes in place. I had to get my hot water heater replaced in my home. I don't know how much it would have been if I didn't have that warranty, but they came. I paid like the $125 fee or whatever. They got me a whole new hot water heater. That man did everything he needed to do. I don't do that type of stuff, so them are not things I try to do. Okay, I'm a woman. I do womanly things. I don't do the fixing on things, cutting the grass. That's not something I do. I ain't trying to do it. Not to say women can't do that, but that's this woman right here. She like to have soft like when she can. Okay, I like people to come do stuff. Okay, I always keep a separate repair fund, very huge. In case it's not covering your warranty, and you don't want to really, a lot of times you don't want to put a claim on your insurance because they can make your rates go up too, right? When you become a homeowner, you get more strategic about, okay, do I need to file a claim for this? Do I need to do this? Did my warranty cover this? Can I find you a good repair person? Okay. You got to get you a good repair person. Try to make sure they're licensed, bonded, and insured. That way, if they do anything else, but at like major stuff, I always definitely go with a company. But it's a lot of people who are licensed, bonded, and insured, and this is their business guys. Find them for those things that really are like the sink, painting needed, touch up, things happen. Your grandchild puts paint on your wall, your daughter, whoever. You need to get that fixed. Those type of things. You can do it yourself too. But if you like me, I ain't trying to, do too much like hard labor. That's not my thing. I ain't never been that type of girl. I always worked in some type of office or something. Okay. I'm not a hard labor girl. But anyway, I like to farm. That's about it. I like to do a little garden here. But that's about it. So make sure you do that. When you own, the costs come from inside the house because you are the landlord. So remember that when you own, you become the landlord. So you're not calling anybody else. You're calling the repair person. You got to pay for it and this, that, and other. So just keep that in mind. Home maintenance and protect the assets. So yes, you must do maintenance on your home. You're going to have to clean your gutters. You got to get your, for the dryer, you need to get that vent cleaned out. Water heaters, pest prevention, landscaping, HVAC cleaned every year. Those type of things are going to be normal maintenance on your home. So you got to make sure you do that on a regular basis. So keep that in mind. And, you can do a seasonal checklist. A lot of people don't know that those things are important to do just so you don't have any major repairs or try to prevent that. So if you skip on maintenance, you probably end up paying more for it later. Like I can tell you, for me, I had to do a dugout for my plumbing in my house because I do have an older home. So I do have older pipes in my home. And then I have some big trees that kind of grow into the pipes. So those are things you learn as a homeowner, So I had to make sure that they could come drill, in the line and so forth. So I don't have any backups, those type of things, or, had to deal with a backup. So that's what ended up happening. So things of that nature that sometimes may be covered under warranty and sometimes not. Personal goals. Now, why are you buying or renting? Long-term resident, or you are a temporary life stage? So like for me, I was like, okay, I'm at a point where I don't feel like I will move in the next 5 years. Within the 10-year period, more likely I'll move. By that time, renting out my house is an option. Selling my house may be an option. Who knows? It just depends on what I'm doing. So you got to really look into that, and then are you able to leverage your money, right? So if you're a homeowner versus renting, are you able to, save, invest, and so forth? That's really a matter too. What are your needs versus your financial strategy? Emotionally, a lot of people, trick you into buy a home, buy a home, buy a home. That's the way you build wealth. That's the way you build wealth. Yes, back in the day, before this market, that was absolutely the way you built wealth. We know that was true, but now we know people are building wealth that are renters. For example, the person I bought my home from, he was a renter. He was actually a dentist. He rented the home he lived in, him and his family, but he had houses he had purchased that he rented out. And that was his strategy. His strategy was he had 3 homes he purchased, he rented those out, but the house he always lived in, he rented. And then his strategy was to, at one point, to offload a house once he started growing his family and buy his business practice. So honestly, he bought a house. When I bought my house from him, he took that money, bought his business, began to buy his business, and also built the house for his family. So while he was in school and building his business, his strategy was to rent the home they lived in and to have homes that they purchased that they rented out, that allowed them to what? Pay down their mortgage quick on those houses. So when they got ready to either leverage that to sell it so they could then purchase what they wanted to purchase at a certain age, that's what they did. So again, it talks about strategy. So always figure out what your strategy may be, and what works best for you. So really assess your needs, really assess who you are, really assess your income, really assess what the income dip looks like, really assess what are you trying to do goal wise 10 years later, and so forth. Renting may be the best option for you versus buying. Buying may be the best option for you versus renting, but only you really know that. But hopefully these things we talked about today will help you. Align your decision based off of your direction. I can't stress that enough. No pressure from everybody else. No pressure from anybody else. No, that doesn't matter what they have going on, etc. Only you know what you're going to be doing. Make sure you understand the interest rates, right? We know we're sick of the interest rates now, right? Lending standards, rising closing costs, right? All those things. But there's ways to like get assistance for your closing costs with programs. You'll be shocked. A lot of banks have programs now because a lot of people do want to see home buyers get in. Make sure you're leveraging those type of programs so you don't have to try to come up with closing costs. And like if you were like me, I just passed it along to the person I bought the house from. I paid part of it, but they paid a portion of it too. Renting may be the right move for flexibility and lower overhead. So, in this market, because I work a lot with business owners right now, and especially with the market changing. And I can tell you guys, I have been, as a business or corporate person, I was working virtually in 2003. And then I have been in a virtual kind of hybrid situation since probably 2007. So for me, where a lot of people got shifted to in the pandemic, that has been my world for over a decade now. So I understand that world very well. And that's where I knew everybody was going to come to, because for some reason, I have realized that my life is always like ahead of everybody else's. And I think it's because I'm supposed to help people through the transitions. So when everybody got hit with the pandemic and they started coming over to our world, that's what I ended up helping a lot of folks through. But understand that flexibility of really what is going to be your advantageous for how your living situation is going to be, what is going to happen for you in the future, and so forth. So be honest with you and what that looks like for you. Buying may be best for generational planning. And if you're not going to leave the area you're in and you plan on living in that city, I'm probably going to be like, I think you should buy a home. I'm going to be like, okay, yeah, it may seem tough to get into that house, but because you're staying in this area, and if I kind of know your situation a little bit, and I know you're not really investing heavy, you're not making your money work for you, the best way to make your money work for you is to buy a house. Okay. If you know, like, hey, I'm not making a lot of income, I'm not buku rolling in dough, I know I'm gonna be able to always afford this rent, then you could probably afford a mortgage. Okay. But you also gonna have to add those things we just talked about being able to pay for repairs and those type of things. If you can pay repairs for your car, you can figure out how to pay repairs for your house. Okay. So really assess your situation. If you know, hey, I'm living in a city, I know everybody's trying to act like everybody in America is rich. That is not the case, guys. I am not one of the people. I know the majority of Americans are making less than 60,000 a year. Okay. So we have real conversations over here. We don't have them fake conversations that everybody else is having. We have real conversations over here. So if you know your income is usually around that, and you know that, hey, I really don't care about moving international, I'm probably not gonna ever leave this city, and I'm more likely gonna be here for the rest of my life, I would suggest you probably want to buy a home, because your income probably is not going to go up. You're probably not going to leverage, be able to leverage to invest and save, even though you want to try to do that. But because rent is so ridiculous right now, it would probably be better for you personally to purchase a home. Again, assess your situation. That may not be the case. You may be in a place that has rent control and the rent is lower than what you would pay for a mortgage. But if it's like within a 200 radius and even less, because sometimes you may come out cheaper than what rent is right now, and you're like, I'm not moving, I'm staying here, figure out how to get into a house. Honestly, guys, unless your credit is just tore up from the floor for it, tore up from the floor up, it does not take you longer than 6 months to fix your credit. Okay. So if you got to make a plan of where I got to do this, this, and that to get my credit to a point where I can go ahead and purchase a house, then do that. And then when you get there, really assess the situation. And there's still homes in the market that are reasonable in certain places, and so forth. So really look into that. Find a good realtor that can help you through that and so forth. And that's really going to assist you. Okay. Remember, there is no one size fits all when it comes to this. I can't stress that enough. I wish I could just take people away from the internet and just be like, assess your situation, look at your life, what is in front of you, and then go from there. And I'm talking about for any and everything. That will help a lot of people so much with anxiety, with stress, with peer pressure, with competition, ego, and those type of forth. I'm telling you, that will just help you to really look at your situation and really take that in and then be able to help yourself. So that would be one thing I would do. Home ownership can definitely be beautiful when done intentionally and strategically. Renting is not a failure. It is not a failure, guys. Don't listen to what people are telling you. It could be a freedom strategy as well. I know plenty of people I have followed their journeys, and they have buku income or investing strategy and are wealthy at a point because they chose to rent instead of buy. And I'm talking about couples, singles, etc., and so forth. But they are definitely making sure their money is working for them. I think at the end of the day, many messages you get from this is try to learn how to make your money work for you. Okay, that's the biggest thing you can do. Renting is kind of throwing away money, but it's not if it's the best situation for you and you're on the go, you like to move, you don't like a lot of responsibility, you don't have the extra to do, and you're going to make sure you're investing, right? So just remember that you're doing that and so forth, and ensure that if you're looking at the home ownership, remember you want to have money to pay for things when it breaks down, take care of stuff when you can, make strategies of, paying for a home warranty, 6 months, once a year, whatever that may be, and so forth, etc. And really realistically look at your situation. Of course, it's better to have more than one income, but I'm also not a person that believes in overworking. We're only one people. We're individuals. We're not supposed to overwork for the rest of our lives. So I'm not a person that's like, hey, I like to have this, this, and that. I'm more of a person that is strategic about. I like to rest. I like to sleep. I like to be able to go take a vacation when I want to. I'm not working around the clock. I gave up that life once I realized that is just not the way to live. And I think I realized that when I left corporate, just to be honest. So, but that's just not me. And I would suggest that everybody get there because that's a lot of stress anyway. Because you got to have time for yourself. You need to have time for your family. You got to have time just to decompress. And really nobody should have to work more than one job to just have the basics. That's just the reality of it. Is America's cost of living has been totally off kilter for over 20 years. Everybody's just feeling it now is the problem, is what's happening. But it's really been that way for quite some time. I can tell you that the last real cost of living based off of wages was when I graduated from high school, which was 1996. So, and I know that was over 20 years ago. Um, so just keep that in mind. But what are you leaning towards? Are you planning on buying? Are you planning on renting for the rest of your life? Are you thinking about leaving the US? I would love to hear the comments below for this topic. I know this is a longer than video, but I really wanted to get this out. It just came over my spirit to talk about renting versus own in a reality checklist to really help you guys make your decisions through this. And really assess your situation based off of your reality. Do not get caught up in anybody else's reality. Don't listen to anybody else peer pressure. Choose a realtor that has your best interest in heart. Do not go with if a realtor is just pushing you to buy, and they're saying buy at what you were approved at. I would change realtors. Okay. I would change ASAP. Okay. So they are not have your best interest at heart. If they're not walking you through any questions you have, you can't tell. They're not taking their time with you and they're just trying to get you in the house. Change realtors. Okay. It is too many realtors out here that will take their time with you and really help you to navigate this world of buying a home and so forth. And I don't think either one is bad. Honestly, it just depends on your situation. But ownership is key. You do want to try to get to some ownership and then protect that ownership when you do get it. What does that look like for protection wise as soon as you do it? So just keep that in mind. I hope this helps somebody. Share this video with somebody that you know that is going to possibly look into buying a home. And did I answer my question? Do I regret buying my home? I do not actually. It has helped me in some tough situations being a homeowner, to be honest. To where if I was a renter, it would not have helped me. I don't have a lot of support outside of me, unfortunately. So for now, so I feel like actually me being a homeowner has saved me in a lot of situations, so forth, and I can attest to that for sure. And so with my reality of my situation, buying a home was a good thing for me to do at the time. Now that things are changing and shifting, we'll see where I end up landing with home ownership and so forth. But I definitely will participate in ownership and make sure I am leaving some things for my family that I have created, right? As I get older and so forth. So for me, I would say it was for me, but again, my situation was totally different than your situation. So you got to decide for you because that's really important, that you understand it. And being a homeowner for a little bit and then not being a homeowner after that is a strategy too. So really look at your situation and assess it and go from there, guys. I promise you, no right or wrong answer because everybody's situation is so different, especially today. So hope you enjoyed this talk. I'm sorry it took so long to get it out. I knew this video would be kind of long because I did not want to rush this topic. This is a very critical topic because you're talking about planning for your life and your livelihood. And we want people to be successful. We want people out here thriving. We don't want you stressed and so forth. So just hope this video helps you out. And whenever you watch this, I hope you're having a great evening, good morning, or a great night. Have a great one.